But the main adjustment that we need to make when we sit is the thymus needs to feel as though it's lifting. This is what's ideal about this posture, because you can just imagine that your middle fingers are directing your thymus upwards. The feeling that something from the front here is lifting, which enables you to slide down your back and into your sitting bones and down into the floor. So when we have the hands down here, it tends to pull me forwards a little bit. And so it's good to regulate it by spending some time like this. Feeling that your upper chest is lifting upwards, but that you're really stacking down into your lumbar spine and sacrum and hips. And now let's just do that heart qigong. So lifting up. And then out. And down. And then again into prayer posture, reaching out a little bit for it. And then here the thymus is really wanting to lift. You're not doing anything special physically. You're more just sort of seeing it in your mind, and just feel how that allows you to settle down your back. And then here, just keep reaching as you go out to stretch open the chest. I reach out, opening up, and then bring the world into my heart. And as I settle here, I just feel my elbows pulling down and that squeezing the hands up. So gravity is responsible for this lift in my thymus. And then just continue that. So really feel the elbows getting heavy. That squeezes the hands up, and then I just go with that. The more my thymus lifts, the more my thoracic spine flattens out, and then I can just slide down my back. And then one more. Reaching out, bringing it into the heart. And just settle here a moment. Feel the elbows heavy, squeezing the fingers upwards. And then just go with that. The wrong sort of mental activity. It's like you're carrying like a heavy overcoat. You've got this heavy overcoat draped over your shoulders and it's dragging you down. So as you reach up here, there's the feeling that it's slipped off your back. The more I reach up, the more I throw this weight backwards, and it can then just drop down my spine. And then when I get back to here, I'm lighter. So it feels like, from here, it just from your heart, it's just a triangle going up and opening. And this is really rearing up, which means that your head is pulling back. And then we have to adjust the neck. So now we just pull the chin down and in to stretch the neck. So it feels like a figure of eight. You've got a circuit like this coming up the front of your torso and down your back. And then when I get the head involved, you can start off by just imagining that it's going over your head like this. So it's just a simple circuit. But once you get the heart flourishing, burgeoning, as John would say, you can get it to come through here. And then the top loop of the figure of eight contains the head. And then it comes back through, down my back, up, through my throat point, this soft point just above the bone here, through there, out of the cervical spine, just beneath the occiput, over the head, down, and then through the throat, out of like the dowager's hump, that sort of bony bit at the back, and down your spine, underneath the perineum, back up, over the head, down through the throat, down the back, and under. So that's basically the circuit when you're sitting. And we'd like it to be pretty much the same when we're standing. And now just linking the fingers. And we're just going to do that pulling and pushing exercise like we do with the stick, but without the stick. So just grip and just gently try and pull the hands apart. And twisting slightly. So you're sort of twisting the hands against each other a little bit. You're just trying to get some movement, and you're trying to get that movement to come inside. You're wanting to feel it around the spine. It's opening the chest. It's getting into the bones. This is the feeling. And then just reverse it. So now you're pushing the two hands into each other. Again, with the twist still going. And then gripping and pulling. Make sure you keep the shoulders relaxed. It's like your elbows are trying to pull apart here. So the elbows are pulling the hands apart, but they're also pulling your shoulders down into them. And then pushing the hands into each other. And try not to tense the shoulders. So we just want it to come into like everything. You know, when you do something physical that's just very, very simple and you can keep your mind with it, then it will slowly just enter the whole of you. And then just pulling again. Yeah, so the twisting is really to get the two sides of the body, left and right, separating. And then just pushing again. And now just up and out, and we'll do a few twists. So maybe have one hand facing down, one hand facing up, and then we've got a degree of asymmetry in the body. And then just turning. So you can keep the hands the same, or you can just swap them round as you turn. I'm working, but all the time I'm relaxing in the sense of sinking. I'm allowing these waves of sinking to wash down me. And then the arms will really tingle and hurt. And then slowly bringing the hands up. So we relieve them by bringing them up. Now gravity is flowing down their length, and so the muscles that were being used to keep them out are no longer being used. And then down. Feel this lifting. It's like it's blossoming upwards, your upper heart. And then keep that feeling in the upper heart, but just bring the hands down to how we normally have them. So you can think of like a lotus, you know, like a water lily, just resting on your palms. And you can think of this being like a chrysanthemum that's got these endless petals that are just unfurling and opening up. And the head is just trying to pull out the way. So the head is just trying to pull backwards, and the chin almost dipping down into this thymus. And that's just really stretching the back of the neck. So this is very much a Zen meditation posture. They have really good postures in Zen. So gravity is pulling me down, but that is getting this recoil lift coming up. And so the posture is something that we really should pay attention to, especially at the beginning of your meditation. So when you just sit down to meditate, you need to spend a minute or two getting yourself into the right position. Because if you just sit down and just start, you'll probably have this loop going, which is the one that we normally have. And we want that to reverse. Otherwise, we don't get this lift up. You should almost get the sense that you're going to start levitating. You're just going to lift off the chair. This upward is so strong. Dan Qian, Ming Men, front and back. This is the middle of my body. I'd like my awareness to wake up to the whole of me. We tend to be very aware of what's happening in our upper body, our arms, our head, inside our head. And we tend to take for granted the legs and the lower part of the spine. So here, I'm sort of getting a split here and just feeling the part that's beneath it, my sacrum and tail blending down into the legs. So the sacrum sort of splits. And the feeling is that my spine comes down the same way that we were thinking of the aorta splitting into the two legs. So this sense of this channel of blood splitting into two. I want to feel the spine very similar. The spine is coming down and then it splits into the legs. So I want to feel that my legs are like an extension of my spine. My legs normally bash my spine. They push up and the lower part of my back gets compressed. I have to just try and release my connection to the ground so that I can get this sense that my spine is flowing down the back of my leg and into the ground. And it's difficult because it requires a completely different mindset. This mind that can sink and relax down, can use the earth as a sink rather than simply a source. So we're normally bounding from the ground, we're pushing up all the time. So it's this source of strength and stability and energy. Now we just want to drain ourselves down into it and just sink and melt. Physically, it's difficult because the legs hurt, but mentally it's difficult as well because it's almost like just letting go of everything, really. And now breathing it. So what I have to make sure is that when I do the breathing out phase, bringing the hands in, that I'm drawing the lower part of my spine down into my legs. I have to sink. It's as though I'm leaning backwards to get my lower back part of my legs like this. And I would fall backwards if I didn't actually bring my head over as well. Getting the breathing, but from the legs. So my legs bend and pull my spine down into it. The spine has to split into the two legs. And then I breathe out, breathe in, I mean, and my legs straighten a bit. And now I want to just pull my lower back and my sacrum and my tail down into my legs. And then I can reverse it. The difficulty is keeping your mind with the lower part of your body. So I have to keep my arm movements to a minimum. They're moving, but it's not because they're doing this. It's because my spine is demanding that they do what they do. Pulling down. Ooh. Melting, sinking. And then just settling. Feel the sacrum. The spine comes down into the sacrum. And then just feel like a tentacle coming out of either side of the sacrum, searching for the heel of the foot. Now let's try this reaching exercise with the arm, reaching forwards. What we want to feel here is the arm coming out of the spine. So the further I want to reach, the more I have to turn away from the hand. So I want to feel this point in my spine the arm is pulling from. Consider the shoulder blade part of your arm, the same way we consider the hip part of the leg. So we tend to be quite aware of the arms, partly because we can see them, but also because we use them a lot. But we're not aware of the shoulder blades. That's the part I'm trying to feel here. It's extending from the back here, popping across the shoulder blade into the shoulder and then down the arm. And now we want to do the same thing, but with the legs. So in the same way that my arm comes from my back, so across the shoulder and then down into the arm. The same with the leg. It's coming from the sacrum, so across the hip and then down the leg. So if I want to get maximum extension of the leg, the same way I was getting maximum extension of the arm, I have to turn away from it. So I'm turning this way. And I'm really trying to straighten the leg. And then I pull it in the same way I pull the hand in. And then I straighten this one. Feel it from the sacrum. So I really want to feel my hip bone, so from my sacrum to this hip joint, included in the leg. And try your best to straighten the leg. And the more you try to straighten it, the more it will push your thymus up and bend your spine backwards. And then as soon as I bend the leg, that all reverses. Straight, bend. So what's difficult about this is that normally in Tai Chi, you're told to sink all the time. So you never get to straighten a leg. So what we want to do here is just try and get it straight, but stay sunk. So that will mean it will the straightening will turn you. So the more it straightens, the more you can feel it extending up into the spine and affecting the upper heart. And I want to feel the straightening, not just pushing against the ground, but extending into it. So a sense that my foot has gone into the ground. Exercises like this, where we're really slowly moving from one extreme to the other, they're very important, especially as we get older, because our range tends to shrink as we get older. And that's what we want to fight against. Now this is bow and arrow, one leg really straight, one leg really bent. And when I release that, it will just naturally spring back. The two sides of the body are sort of wanting to become the same. That's the low energy state. This is high energy. And then the energy wants to discharge. And if I let it, it will just bring me back to the front. Feel the twisting in the limbs. So my arm is twisting out and my foot is trying to do the same. And then when it reverses, it just twists the other way and the foot the same. Back to riding horse. And just feel this Ming Men part of the spine. Beneath that is splitting down into the two legs. And now the same exercise, but with a sort of lively pump. So straight bend, straight bend, straight bend. So normally when we turn, we just think in terms of, okay, I'm doing a turn one side and then the other, one side and the other. Now, obviously that must be coming from the legs, but we're not aware of it generally. So now we just want to be really aware of the action of the legs that's producing this turn. So one leg has to straighten, then it has to bend. One leg straightens, bends. So I want to feel these two legs always doing opposite things, producing this singular turn. And what's difficult about it is just keeping the mind in two, one side and the other. As one side pulls, the other side has to straighten. but you can feel them separate, you know, so this straightens and bends, and then this one straightens and bends. So that's often easier. So this is a lively mind. A lively mind is one that can very quickly switch and change. This is what we don't have anymore. So children have had much more lively minds than we do. Straight bend, straight bend, straight bend. And then we just keep that going in the legs. Let the arms appear as though they're relaxed. So this is straightening and then it's bending. So if you get it from the legs properly, the straightening of the leg will always lift the thymus. The bending of the leg will always pull it down. So if you're using your legs, then this is constantly bouncing up and down. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So you start to get a bit giddy, almost seasick. And imagine you're in water, you're doing this in the pool up to your neck. So you really have to use the legs strongly to get these turns. Okay, now let's bring it up again. Reach out like we're pulling in a rope. So really reaching forwards. So if this was like really difficult and you had to really put an effort into it, then you'd really use the whole arm, including the shoulder. You wouldn't just be lightly reaching forwards like this. You wouldn't be dabbing and dainty. You'd be muscular and physical. And so that would naturally just get a lot of movement in the chest here. When we're doing it with the legs, it's similarly churning up this area, but because it comes up the spine, it similarly gets into the heart. Let's just try it again. So this whole area is being twisted and turned, but that's also getting up into the heart, into the chest. And if you allow it, it will come up into the head as well. Just sink, keep that sinking. Imagine someone's pressing down on your shoulders and it's just driving you down into your legs. We're so used to pushing up from the ground and out of our legs that we just don't have that sinking strength. Okay, and now let's back into riding horse. And I'm sinking and flowing down my legs. My spine extends into each leg. My legs are simply an extension of my spine. And the less I can feel that there's a break between them, the better they will work. And the more energy they will be able to bring up. You can feel it in the mind. You know, we're so used to setting ourselves so that our minds can think to themselves. And that basically means that we've come up from the ground and we're no longer sinking. If you're sinking in this energetic, melty, fluid way, then this just can't think to itself. Is all it can do is just be aware and listen. It can't cut off from the environment that it's in. If you want to think to yourself, you have to become unaware. You have to choose to be unaware of what's around you. So the message we're always giving the world is, I am more interesting than you. It's just pure selfishness, really. And now let's just try a bit in bow and arrow. Coming backwards and forwards, so full and empty. I'm filling from the ground here. And now I have to really straighten the back leg to keep myself forwards. And then I just relax that and I will sort of turn back to the corner here. And then as I sink into the back leg, I have to straighten my front leg to get me back round to the front. And then I bend the front leg, pulls me over here, and then I straighten the back leg. So in this exercise, we're sort of drifting between riding horse and bow and arrow. As we pass through the middle, we're sort of in riding horse a bit, but then we have to really go to the extreme again. Really straighten the back leg and then just allow it to bend. And then as you put the weight into it, you have to really straighten the front leg to get the hips round. Otherwise, you'll be facing over here. And then just allow the front leg to bend. That sucks this hip towards it, which will turn me this way. And then I straighten the back leg to push my right hip back round square. And then I let the back leg bend, which pulls my hip towards it. And now I have to really straighten the front leg to push my left hip back so that I'm square again. Grabbing the foot is grabbing the ground, and then the energy will come up it. And I just straighten this leg to make sure that the direction of the energy is forwards. And then I bend the front leg, that grabs the ground and starts the energy siphoning up into it. And then here I really straighten the back leg again to make sure the energy is going forwards and not over here. Bow and arrow is a high energy posture. Imagine the bow that's pulled, ready to fire. You know, it's got a lot of tension that's ready to release. And so you want to feel that. You feel the real difference between the two sides of the body. This side is supporting, but relaxed and sunk and full. And this side is as straight as it can get. And then this side bends, and now it claims the weight. And now this leg has to really straighten. So the straightening leg, it gets you facing front, but it also really drives you down into the supporting leg, forces it to bring energy up. So I have to use a bit of force here, a bit of real effort to get the energy into this left hand. Now the energy is coming up, but to get it to come across and into my right hand, I really have to straighten that back leg. Come forwards, the energy comes up this filling leg, and then I straighten my back leg to make sure it pops up into the upper body and pushes forwards. Then I bend the back leg, starts me moving into it, but brings the energy up from the ground. Then I straighten my front leg to get the right direction and to drive me into the back leg to make sure the energy comes up into the right hand. Okay, good. So they say the main problem nowadays is the noisy mind. You know, we're always distracted, getting a shorter and shorter attention span. But that largely is a consequence of our legs having become weaker, and that we don't have a respectful attitude to the earth and to nature. We see ourselves living in this human bubble, and nature's somehow out there. Working to strengthen the legs, not in the normal way. So a lot of people have got strong legs because they train. People train nowadays. they have special time set aside to train the body. But that strength is all the straightening strength, like running and cycling. It's all to do with, you get the power from the straightening. Now we want to get it from the bending. A bit like skiing, you know, when they're skiing and they're really low on the skis. And so the legs are having to be used as sort of shock absorbers more than anything when you're skiing, keeping your center of gravity low. It's very similar in Tai Chi. And that's like then its real strength. But in order to develop it, you can't be afraid of the ground. You can't be wanting to push up all the time. Something in you has to love the earth and love nature so much that you're just part of it. You're just wanting to ooze into it all the time. Feeling the sacrum. The sacrum is as though it's got two arms reaching out of either side of the sacrum, trying to find the ground beneath each foot. So we have to wake up to the part of us that is aching for the earth, the same way that we have to wake up to the part of us that's aching for the heavens. And they're really the same thing. You can't wake up to what's up here if you haven't already made a good connection with the ground. This is the message of Tai Chi, really. So the lightness always in Tai Chi comes from the heaviness. The levity comes from the gravity. And now let's try just a little bit of this one. Slow. I want to become aware of the heel. Not simply as something that's going down in order to come under, but as like a thumb. The heel is like the thumb of the foot. You can think of the toes being the array of four fingers, and the thumb, the opposable thumb, you know, which gave human beings that advantage, is the heel, which the heel wants to reach back before it cuts down and comes under. So I want to feel as though my foot is like the hand. It's got an opposable thumb, which is the heel. Sense that my heel can cut down under, the same that my toes can cut down under, and they'll sort of meet under the ground. So the feet grab the ground in Tai Chi in this sense, that they're doing this. They're trying to pull the ground that they're standing on towards each other. But each foot also grabs the ground. So as I bring this heel up, I can extend the heel out. I can feel as though the heel is extending behind me. Then as it goes down, something has to roll here. My tail has to come under to get the heel to come under towards the toes. So we're just trying to get action into the foot. As my heel comes down, it's also growing backwards. It's like a talon of the eagle. Think of the back talon of the eagle. You know, it cuts under the branch here, and then the other ones, is it three? Come over the top here. So as I go down, my heel is extending backwards, and then it cuts under. So to allow that to activate, it's there. We're not trying to do anything amazingly difficult. It's all there. It's just we haven't really done it for a long time, if ever. It's going to require accessing part of your spirit that you're not used to. So this heel has to go back, and then it cuts under. And the action is it's all in here. It's all in the action of the lower back, which is great because we want that to be really flexible and capable of fine movement. So I'm with the hand that's coming down, which is with the foot that's coming down. So as it comes down, I'm turning this way, but that helps extend the heel this way. If anyone's watching you, what they will see is this hand coming up. But the only way this hand can come up is because this heel has gone down and under. And now just bringing the knee up. Yeah, so this is really the figure of 8 in the legs. So let's just try that a little bit first. So looping, trying to make the loop as big as possible. So it really goes out here. So exaggerating the outsideness of the outside edge of the foot into my heel around the outside edge, and then back through the toes to the big toe, and then into this heel. So I'm releasing here, and it will naturally return. It's just the structure of the body. I don't have to do anything special to get it to come back. I just continue. I just change direction here, and it will go round and then get drawn in. Going out so far to the side here that the other foot just comes up, and then putting it down, and now slipping into this heel, and then really reaching out here, and this foot will come up. If I start falling into my instep on the leg, then that's when my balance is compromised. I just want to feel this edge here. It should feel really soft. Soft because it's not me. It's further out than me. Whatever's further from me will always be softer than me. and also more promising. You know, like the grass is always greener. So as I come into the leg and sink into the leg, there's a sense of really opening. So I'm not closing down into the leg. My sinking is never a closing down. I'm simply sinking in order to allow an opening up in the upper body. So again, this is flowing out into my heaven space. Okay. One last time, just come into riding horse. Feeling the Ming Men, and then just releasing the spine beneath that down and into the legs. And it will tend to curve the spine like this. That's the yielding curve. So when I connect with the ground properly, I'm in yielding mode. You know, my sinking takes me down, curls me up into a ball. When I extend and come up from that, I want that to extend me into the ground. So look, you know, when we were turning, I was pushing the ground to get myself around, but also a feeling that something is penetrating the ground, like a needle. It's going into the ground from my heel. And then I can draw energy up from the ground. So I can draw force from the ground, obviously. You know, we just straighten the leg and push. But I can also draw energy, but for that I have to really melt and sink into the ground. I have to penetrate it. And then something will come up. The energy of the earth will come up into you. And now this exercise just going on. It's more like just a figure. You're feeling the figure of 8 inside each foot. So there's like a lift one side, a sink the other, and then a lift the other side. I remember when I was a kid seeing an interview with Roger Moore on the TV, and he was sort of making fun of himself. And he says, my acting range, he says, it ranges from lift left eyebrow to lift right eyebrow. But that's the feeling here. Is that's almost like I lift my eyebrow And then I lift my eyebrow. I can sort of create a mood with my eyes and my face. John was always thinking of developing exercises for the musculature in the face in order, for people to make the right expressions. So there's a feeling that your face is really mobile.